And what I'm trying to explain to you, ladies and gentlemen, is the real world that our children live in, not the ideal one that we want them to live in, not this wonderful world that we pray that will come here one day, but the real world that they have to live in. You want to know why they're acting so crazy? You want to know why they're doing the things that they're doing? Because we have not prepared them to live in this real world. We have sent them through 12 years of school teaching them this dumb stuff that doesn't work, and when they go out and try to apply it and get killed for it, we are not there to help them through.
African Americans ain't African. Do you know who you are?
Welcome to another installment of African Americans Ain't African, the talk show that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the so-called African American didn't find his way to America in the trunk of a ship. I'm your host, Buck Weilam, and tonight we bring you Hollywood and the image of the African American. We can always be reached at area code 605-562-3149. Join us, call in, give us your thoughts, help us end this madness that is going on in the so-called African American community and why we always seem to find ourselves at the bottom. So if you have solutions on how we can get out of this madness, if there is a solution, please join us in conversation. You heard Soul Brother number 1, James Brown, bringing you I Don't Want Nobody to Give Me Nothing. Open up the door and I'll get it myself. And I think that's a phrase that brothers might want to start getting into so we can start building something around here where we can stop being everybody's footstool in the world. Soul music for soul children. It's the beginning of 2015. And in the current scheme of things, the images that are coming out of Hollywood and are being produced by people who obviously don't have our interest at heart. How do these movies and images help the current plight of the so-called African American? I mean, with everything going on in the social arena, how are these images put out by these conglomerate companies? How are these images having effect on us? Tonight we're going to explore that. When you look at the natural habitat in America that many of our ancestors helped cultivate, can you imagine what this place looked like before the Raiders, the Padres, the Buccaneers, the Vikings all came over here and began to plunder the habitat and the people? What they had cultivated, that is what we were supposed to inherit. If the habitat inheritance of our forefathers and mother doesn't fall into our hands, whose hands does it fall into? Who benefits from it? We sure don't. And why do others always benefit off of us? And we can never seem to get it right. You see, the problem is the majority of black people, African Americans, colored, Negroes, etc., they don't think that this belongs to us. We're more like renters. We just think that we're refugees. The African American believes he's a refugee. People forced off their land. Now they live in a foreign land in which they have no say. And if they do have some say, they normally say what the people who they believe are the reason they are here. They normally do what they normally say what those people want them to say. One of the greatest mechanisms used to shape and maintain the behavior of the African American is the image of the African American themselves. You see, the African American is a group of people who were created by others. The African American is a construct to be used as others see fit. In order for this to work, the image of the African American can't be the image that the African American creates for himself. For if this was the case, the African American wouldn't be in the condition he and she are in today. They surely would have figured it out by now. No, the image of the African American in all phases of human activities are controlled by others, mainly Hollywood. Tonight we get a better understanding of how the African American is looked upon as a slave, a person who spends his or her life energy building other people's empires while never lifting a finger to build their own. Joining me for this expose are my co-hosts Rick Moon, Niecy Lachelle, and the Lone Wolf. The Lone Wolf. How's everybody doing this evening?
Pretty good.
Hey, everybody. It's the Lone Wolf.
Selma, 12 years a slave, The Butler, The Help, movies that Kevin Hart star in. Is it me, or is there a more sinister plot afoot? Please give us a call, 605-562-3149, to participate so your views can be heard. Punch in 240-670-pound. Rick, what's going on with these images, brother?
Hey, it's just a plot to keep our people down, and thus far it's worked pretty well. So I guess they're going to keep on doing it and keep on doing it as long as we keep going for it. And these are things that a lot of us actually believe. So they're going to continue to do it as long as we believe it, and that's what we're doing.
Nisi, you see other people, when they put out images about themselves, they can live in space with no spacesuit. They can transverse the 7 seas. They can time travel. They can split jeans with a spoon. Nisi, do you feel this is by accident? Or is like Rick said, is this a way to control a certain part of the population?
I agree with Rick. The imagery is about devaluing a people. So when you see us, we're only in comedy, we're in negative stereotypical images. Those are we run, we jump, we sing, we sell dope and poison to our own collectives and, things like that. You can add Precious to that list of movies. So it's about devaluing a people's psyche in themselves so that they are seen from within, internally, as less than and not even capable of anything beyond a certain realm.
Lone Wolf, you live in Hollywood. What's the climate like out there, brother? I mean, have you ever ventured into acting or anything?
Well, it's a tough field to get into, man, especially if you don't know anyone in it, but I happen to know someone and a couple folks. So, and once brothers get in, man, it's kind of like every man for himself. It's not like how you might see these guys, Seth Rogen and all those guys. They get their buddies in and include them, and with this, it's like you do or die, man.
So you would figure, why isn't it like that? You would figure, I mean, the masses are starving. I mean, man, we tired of the dude in the dress. We tired of mass are gonna come save us. We tired of that type shit. Why isn't it that there's a culture in Hollywood, and especially the black Hollywood, where brothers are getting together, putting some movies that people want to see?
Well, Brother Buck, I don't know where to start, man. First of all, we pigeonhole in the same roles as a sidekick or a heartless monster or the victim first to die in a horror movie or action movie. We basically the test dummy to show how bad the monster or the person or the weapon is in the beginning of the movie so the audience can react and say, damn, that monster chewed his black ass up or that gun blew his black ass up. Then you also have the movies in which the brother has to put on a dress and wig, like you said, and embarrass himself before he's welcome into the real Hollywood and is accepted and can make some, so-called real money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I got that. I got that. That's what we're tired. That's what we're tired. That's what the masses is tired of seeing, man. I mean, really.
Right.
I mean,
I was gonna say, let's not forget the good old casting couch, in which, unfortunately, it ain't some fine woman that you have to sleep with, but instead some older person of the same sex. You got so many things working against you, man.
So the consciousness on Hollywood is what, at an all-time low or what? Because
I mean, it's not an all-time low. It's the same. It's the same. But what's the difference between Good Times and what's happening? Well, now they got the reality shows, which is, I mean, I don't know where to even start with that. But it's all the same, man. Good Times was written by what, Norman Lear? Man, what do you know about the South Side of Chicago and the projects, man?
Yes.
And I heard he stole that script from a brother.
Yeah. Monty Evans or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yes, area
And
code.
where's that poor brother, man? You know.
Right. Area code 605-562-3149. African Americans Ain't African Radio. We can also be reached. Come check us out in the chat room on Facebook and African Americans Ain't African. Rick, movies. What are some of the movies that you've seen that you can think of that has had a very negative impact, or if it had any impact at all, positive or negative? What's a couple of movies you can name or you can see where this changes up the psych pattern for the African American?
To mention a movie that I saw a long time ago, and this movie is just to show you how what they think of us and how we are always less than them. I don't know if y'all ever saw that movie, The Bodyguard, Whitney Houston.
Yes.
Well, if you check out that movie, that is a prime example of how we are just thrown to the bottom of the well, and we just, like, I'll give you an example. If you check out all the characters in that movie, all the indigenous characters, which was Whitney Houston, I don't know all these actors and actresses' names, but it was another sister on there that played her sister. It was a young guy on there. It was an older guy on there, and she had a son. And of course, we know Kevin Costner is the star. Well, the little boy sees Kevin Costner. He might as well have called him my hero or daddy or something, because he couldn't take his eyes off of him. Had never seen this man before in his life, but he knew who his daddy was. You got Whitney Houston and her sister fighting over this European. You know. Then you got the older guy. He's like, cause Costner, he's like an ex-FBI agent, CIA or something like that. And you have this old dude on there who nothing can get done without the euro. Oh, we need you, sir. There's no way we can get this done. And then you got a young guy he's a yes, boss man. Yeah, boss, where we going? What we gonna do? Everybody waited for this European to tell them what to do before they made any moves, and I just find it's one of the horrible movies I ever saw.
Hey, man, you just explained a horrible movie to the T. And so what you're saying is those characters, so when we watch the movie, of course, we're going to identify with the characters that are surround us and who we look like. So taking what you just said about that movie, though, are you saying those are the attitudes and behaviors that we have in the community?
Most definitely. I mean, you see it every day. Look at all the complaining we do about, and we don't go to each other for answers. We ask the European for the answer, and we bitch to him to solve our problems instead of solving them ourselves.
Nisi, is that how it really is?
I would have to say so. We live it every day. We're the only group, let me put it this way, we are the only group that is incentivized by throwing each other under the bus and then stepping on the gas. We've been incentivized since, our period of enslavement and beyond, because that's the only way that a select few of people maintain control over us when we were, when we were during that period and before we got into the condition of enslavement. We had to be divided against one another. And in doing so, the divide and conquer is a perfected strategic in war. And, I'm sure you having been in the military, you know that. That is how wars are won, by divide and conquer as a strategic. So, when people are incentivized to do these things to one another, we're not incentivized to embrace collectivism. Every man for himself. Push other folks out of the boat so that you can be the only person in the boat, even if the boat can hold everybody.
Boy, you're straight and to the point. So, Nisi, could you share with us a movie like Rick shared, or not just a movie, but images? Because images come in all forms. I mean, they could be TV shows, it can be plays. What are some of the images that you see that you think directly affect the community in a positive or a negative light?
Most of the things that I see affect our collective in a negative way because that's what sells. Let's be clear about that. I happen to be a movie buff, but it's gotten so that all the stuff blends in. And I'm going to be honest, I can barely remember one to the next because they're not indistinguishable, okay? Now, what I can say, I don't watch reality shows. That's just a no. I didn't do it when they first came on. I know how they came about, which was through the, Screen Actors Writers Guild strike probably just under 20 years ago. It's lazy TV and it's garbage. So I don't watch those. But I'll watch a little TV. I happened to see the first pilot of Empire with Taraji P. Henson last week. It comes on Wednesday, I think, on Fox, and Terrence Howard. Now, we're split on that show because I've been keeping up with with the commentaries about it. It seems like we're pretty much split on it. On the one hand, people give the folks a pass because they say, well, they're in this and they got to work and they got to, get what they can get. But you have to delve into this. The show is about them selling poison to the communities. They made $400,000 bank. This is in the pilot. Cookie goes to prison for 17 years. Her husband, which is Terrence Howard, he doesn't even come to see her, doesn't bring the boys to see her. They have 3 sons. And that right there is just a sore spot, because it's just, okay, what kind of people is this? Is showing us. And they were married, and all 3 of the kids were there. So she takes the case for him. He gets the money. He wants to be a rap artist, and he starts an empire. So she's coming out now bitter, trying to get what's hers. That's the gist of what, of what Empire is about. So, and it's just setting us up to be never family-oriented, always divisive, always cutthroat, even amongst our own familiar. That's what I see. But, that's what's out there.
We have a phone call. We have a caller trying to get in area code 404. Area code 404, you had a question or had something you wanted to bring to the table?
Well, actually, I have a statement and I have a question because I think, we as black people, we forget sometimes the power that our voice can carry, because I was thinking about one reality show that they was about to put on TV, but it actually didn't air because they did a petition and they made so much fuss about it. But the rapper Shawty Lo, when he was about to put out his reality show, Baby Mama, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
thank God they petitioned it.
Yeah, because, people made so much fuss about it. So it brings me to the question of, why do we use our voicing and raise so much complaining about certain reality shows or movies, but we don't do it with others that carry the same type of messages?
Why do you think that is, ma'am?
That's what I've been trying to figure out.
You saying
really? Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, sweetheart. I was gonna say you're comparing that with something like Love and Hip Hop or some Basketball Wives or something like that, right? Yeah, you're right.
Right.
But unfortunately, those they started out a certain kind of way and they just grew. It had a snowball effect. It started out, say, the Basketball Wives, they just started out throwing wine bottles at each other across the table during dinner and all that. They grew on to that. You know, same with the hip hop one. You know, it showed, you know, the rappers go into the studio and all that, and then it grew into like girls fighting each other and all of that stuff. The Shawty Low one, they already knew, you know, there's nowhere to grow from that. Not saying the other stuff grew to be something positive. They got bigger and bigger into something just way more horrible. Now, I agree they need to be taken off. But, you know, Chris Rock, I was reading an article. He brought up an interesting point earlier last week. He was saying in the movies, the educated brother or the brother with the money is usually the villain and is evil. You know, even in movies made by the black directors, you know, they have to be saved by the poor people. Now that he said that, I kind of break that down in a teaching. It's the crab in the bucket mentality, you know, in which we have to bring somebody back down who succeeded and had a goal, and we didn't, you know, either because we were too lazy or too ignorant and had no idea how to obtain that goal. You know, instead of asking or somebody teaching, you know, we just got to bring the other person down, you know. And it seemed like Hollywood hired the same 3 black actors over and over and over, you know.
Well, the movies that are coming out, and this is what I mean. See, all those shows show all these Negroes balling. All these Hollywood wives, the preachers of L.A., sorority sisters. To me, these shows, because they have no intelligent content at all, to me, they're just stories used to advertise whatever they're trying to floss into the show. And that's all the shows are. It's just advertising to the people watching.
What, clothes and liquor?
Right. Chairs, furniture, all that. We thinking the African American thinks that the African American is to be used by foreigners. That's his only job.
Right.
They do nothing else. To buy other people's, to buy foreign products. That is the main reason for the existence of the African American. Nothing more.
Yeah. You know, Denzel Washington didn't get an Oscar for X or for Hurricane. He got it for playing a crooked cop in Training Day, you know.
Right, but
that's, like, look at that.
But that's
Holly Berry, you know, she didn't get one for playing Dorothy Dandridge. She got one for playing in a soft porn, you know, Monsters Ball, getting, you know, banged out by Billy Bob Thornton, you know.
So, but we won't make no love stories where we, you know, we won't.
It's like we do, but we don't have the money to put it out. We do between all of the basketball players and athletes and all that.
Brother. Nah, we can do it. We just choose not to.
Right.
That's all. We and that's what I'm saying. That's what these images put upon us. Things like we can't never get it. We can.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying the images that we should be watching, because why we have cable TV, that baffles my mind.
Right.
Because all the images that come across cable TVs are horrible.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's the athlete.
Exactly.
And you see what we do when we take, it's like brothers getting into football. Nobody was watching that before you started playing.
Yeah.
Everything you do turns to gold, but for some reason we want to turn gold in for somebody else. Right. African Americans Ain't African Radio, area code 605-562-3140. We're talking about the images in Hollywood. We're talking about what are these people making us, what are we looking like? What is this?
We didn't come into the world. We came out of it, like a wave from the ocean, bringing forth new energy, new ideas, and new life. Are you connected? You can be. Join Project Reconnect, spring 2015. Let's get connected.
You know, one of the things that I don't like about these movies is the movies where the black folks always got to take a white movie and just put blackface on it. Like Annie.
Oh, my God.
Why do we do that? I hate that.
Yeah.
Rick, what do you think about that? I mean, so now everybody wants, who's the new actor now? The brother that played James Brown, he's going to be Batman next?
Yeah, well, you see, Remember Will Smith as James? What was the Wild Wild West guy?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
See how well that movie did.
okay, so that again, that's what I'm saying. So the stories that we take and the roles that we play are always what somebody else thinks of us. It's like you were saying earlier, Lone Wolf. Halle Berry playing that role. That was a role for them.
Right.
That's their Oscars that they're giving to her. That's not nothing that we don't write our own stories. And that's what I'm wondering what the problem is. Stories are written, I know, but
man, I didn't know she was that cold-blooded until I seen her in Dorothy Darren. She acted her tail off. Yes. But she got it for saying, well, I ain't going to repeat what she was saying in Monsters Bar, but she get it for that.
Yes. So
find a Snickers bar under the couch and beating up her heavy, her son. He got a eating problem. She beat her son. Get an Oscar for that. Like, come on, man. Same with Monique and Precious.
Yes.
Like, come on. Get rewarded for all these ignorant roles, man.
Yeah. So what do you think? And let me ask you this: since you're there in Hollywood or close to it, is what you're just mentioning, is what David Chappelle says about Hollywood, that's true, isn't it?
Definitely, man. And look, after he said it, it's like he fell off the face of the earth, man. This dude had the biggest selling DVD ever with the Chappelle Show. Then just fall off the face of the earth after he made those statements. They want to make him look like he crazy, I mean, man, it's so obvious, man. All the brothers that you see, man, except maybe the exception of Denzel, done wore a dress.
So is that with that in mind?
But that happened way back in Flip Wilson too, though, right? So it ain't nothing new.
Yes. But the media now isn't what it was in Flip Wilson days. We probably had 4 or 5 channels then, and now we have all of these, so we're inundated with that type stuff. Yeah. Is that man in a dress? Is that having a psychological effect on the African American male?
I'd like to answer that.
Definitely.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Yes. Hi. Thank you so much for this show. It's so well needed. It's very interesting that the show. That this is a topic tonight, because just Saturday I was having a conversation with my sister, and we were talking about shows, what they represent, how we're being represented. And one of the cats who I think is doing a horrific job, even though every so-called African American female that I know loves this cat to death. But I said that it's a shame what Tyler Perry has done in terms of representing female. So I said to my sister, she's like, oh, don't you talk about Tyler. He is bad. I'm like, yeah, he's bad. Right. Okay. So you mean to tell me that you're okay with a man putting on a dress, acting like a female elder, who supposedly has all the answers, who supposedly can get people in check. So basically, he's saying to you, sister, that I'm a better female than your ass is, and I'm a man.
Wow.
Damn.
Wow. Y'all didn't come to blows, did you?
You know she hung the phone up on me, but it's okay.
Yeah. Wow. For me, it's hard to believe, because it's like a double-edged sword, because I'm happy for the brother, because I heard he used to live out his car and all of that, you know what I mean, and was homeless. But it's hard for me to imagine him writing movies in the backseat of his car 3 or 4 in the morning about a woman with a dress on. You know, is that the...
How can you be happy about a brother that's bringing some type... How can you be happy about a brother that is bringing that type of imagery into our households and I'm telling you, these kids, they will sit down. Let me finish, brother. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
I'm sorry, baby.
these kids will. No, it's okay. It's just that this is one of them conversations right here. When y'all talk about Flip Wilson, this stuff has been going on for forever. And when you have these females who have shrines to Tyler Perry ass. They love this Negro, and they bring their kids, their boys, sit down and watch this shit with them. What is that? What is that showing them? That it's cool to wear a dress? Oh, if I wear me a dress and write some place, and I'm gonna be big like that too. No,
right.
And it just, to me, the imagery of it all is just so horrific. I think in the psyche of our children, and we allow this. Nobody says anything about it. Nobody says anything about the bullshit. Steve Harvey, think like a man. What the hell? Hell no, I don't want to think like a man. That's not my role to think like a man. I'm a female. I'm supposed to think like a female and play my role as a female. So the point I'm trying to make is that nobody says anything about these things. We need to stand up and have a voice in terms of what we want our families to be exposed to. Yeah, we don't have to watch it. I don't. But the fact of the matter is, when you stated that we can have our own shows, we can have our own movies. We have people out there that have the money. There are some stars out there that have the money to do it. They're not going to do it.
Right.
Because if they were, they would have. So there has to be a reason behind it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So whoever wants to make this movie, you can make this one. The movie is called Rev, right? And he's a reverend by day, but at night he's kind of like Blade to the 100th power, and he just brings justice. But in the daytime, he's a reverend. But at night, think about it. Spice it up a little bit.
That whole reverend thing, that's a whole nother thing, man.
Right.
And I want to say to the caller, sister, I wish all our callers could be as passionate as you. We love that passion. That's why we here. Go ahead, brother Buck.
Yeah, I was.
Oh, man, I had to give her a shout-out. I like her passion, bro.
Okay. So being out in Hollywood, like the sister was saying, these people got money. What do you see doing in that type of crowd? What do you see that those people are doing? What is being done out there in Hollywood with all these cats who are making all of this money?
Well, they just keeping it to themselves, and they living in these gated communities, and they coming up with more unoriginal ideas and shittier shows, And, not to get on this whole Bill Cosby thing, because that's a whole other thing. But it's funny that when he was about to get his own network, he was talking about, like, right around the end of last year that all this stuff come up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like they just assassinated that man's character, and he was so-called about to get his own network. Not to say it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I don't necessarily see Bill having cats and dresses and reality shows and all that.
Right. So you're saying that here's a man coming out with something that was going to change the image, and he was derailed?
Yeah. Now, if he did it, shame on him, and, may justice be served. I don't know if it can be at this point because years have passed by and the statute of limitations or whatever. But, if he did, I don't necessarily agree. I don't know. But I'm just saying, it's kind of ironic that,
Well, this is what I mean about how our images are shaped. Now, Bill Cosby's been around for a long time. And especially when he was at the height, especially with his Cosby Show, you would think those allegations would have been made then, were they?
Exactly.
And another thing I'm saying, if he's this cat, especially most of these girls are white girls,
And it's the 70s and 80s, bro.
Yeah,
Come on, man.
I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
I can't see that happening because all the
And
white girl
if
gotta
it
say,
did, we don't agree. You
right,
know.
right. I just don't see it happening. A white girl,
Yeah.
Bill Cosby, they would have
Yeah.
railroaded him then. So
Right.
I just don't see it. So I don't know, but to me, that I'm glad you brought that up because that's another image of a guy who can be like most of our grandfathers' age,
Right.
father's
Yeah.
grandfather age. And these
I didn't mean to cut your shitty movie off, man. But when you said the Reverend, man, you know, most of those people that go to those Tyler Perry movies, man, are church-going folks. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But it's right.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yep, that's what I was
right. That's how.
Yeah. And I don't have nothing against church ones. So, you know, it's just ironic.
No, right. That's where you're gonna make your money for the movie.
Yeah.
That's
right.
what I'm saying.
Exactly.
They think they
it's
come
a
in
market.
thinking
it's
gonna
a heck
be
of a market.
Right. They come in thinking it's gonna be We Shall Overcome, but it's nothing like that.
Right.
African Americans Ain't African Radio on the Black Talk Network. Come check us out on Facebook in the African American Ain't African chat room. The images that we get, not only are they visual, but they also are audio. Some of these images that are coming out that we listen to, where there used to be a time when music where instruments were played. You had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 brothers on some instruments making one harmony, sisters too. Now the music that we get, what kind of image is that putting into it? If music is the sound of the soul, what kind of sounds and images are we getting through the music, Nisi?
Well, I have 2 sons, and my younger one is still in high school. I can tell you that I posted this video of this guy. I think his name is Kevin Gates, I believe. You have to listen to some of that guy's stuff. They've gone from, you know, P-U-S-S-Y, nigga, to now every other line in a rap is talking about, you know, a dude after another dude. And it's just dropping it. I started listening to this stuff, and I said, what kind of garbage is that? I turned it up. I said, what is this garbage? So what it's saying, and I've been seeing videos of our sons, our boys, emulating and doing, you know, simulated gang rape or whatever the hell you want to call it. I've seen it on other boys. That's what it's saying. So when they get through talking about rap, you better come correct and talk about it as part of the adding gay and homosexuality into our collective with the feminism on the down low. They're bringing it.
They say life imitates art. Is that so, Rick?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I'm a very big believer in that. And that's to me, that's the difference between music today and music back long time ago. I think in most part in the day, the singers and the instruments they played and everything was pretty much their personalities, and they talked about, you know, a lot of things that are happening to them. This stuff now, man, I don't know what it is, man. It's just they talk about anything and everything, and they don't have any kind of they've lost all the heart. You know, it's not them. It's what image of what they want to be. And all those cars and stuff that you see on these rappers' videos, they don't own them. They don't own them houses and none of that stuff either. It's just an image of how people want to be. But back in the day, I think that these people really felt what came out of their mouth.
Yeah. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Now I was just saying in their instruments.
Yeah. It's gotten horrible, but the images, the sounds that are coming out, these sounds that are coming out, they're not being created by instruments, they're being created by computer-generated sound. What is the effect? Is it psychological? that these sounds are having on us? Is it physical that these sounds are having on us? What's going on with it?
It's all of that.
I think it's physical. I think it's both. Because first of all, you got all the radiation and all that stuff, coming coming from that computer or whatever, and then the sounds coming out of it, they can be irritating because it ain't really real music to me. It's just noise making. So yeah, I think it has a physical and a mental effect on us.
Now that we've covered the movies, the television, and the sounds, what about this new area that we're smack dab in the middle of, social media? What kind of impact, if any, is that having on the way not just the young people behave and act, but everybody?
Brother, I think that's a whole different. We need to do that one next week. Because we still got some more Hollywood, you know what I mean? Because that whole social media stuff, man, we could we could talk about that for some hours.
Right.
I was gonna say, as far as that audio, that stuff you was talking about, as far as the hearing that stuff, man, it made me think of these little ignorant YouTube clips. Like you got the one dude, he's sissy or whatever you want to call it. You better run and tell that, You've seen that one before, I'm sure, y'all. The guy, I don't know what to call him, but he's just like, you better go run tell that. And you got the other lady, I was just trying to go get a great pop, So you got these interviews, and then the very next day you click on YouTube, they got songs. I was trying to get scratch it, get a great pop, It is just like they just forcing it down your face, man. It's like, that's all these kids know. Most YouTube clicks or whatever, the videos are like 2 minutes because attention is for an hour or something like 30 minutes, like as far as a documentary or something like that. They just want to see something quick, stupid, and ignorant.
On that note about the audio, one last thing. Nobody makes original, hardly anybody makes original music. All this stuff with the synthesizers and all of that, it's not even natural. You talk to most of these people who are so-called made it, they can't even read music. If you can't read music, how can you write music? So You have that. You don't even have the natural talent, the gift. It isn't there. It's all manufactured. So we're in a computer-generated age. We're in an artificial age. Nothing. Yeah. I mean, how much about our own innate environment is natural? Hardly anything. So the music goes by the wayside just like everything else. It's not even real. It's not natural. Yeah. It's not organic.
Go ahead, Rick.
Hi, may I say something on the audio real briefly?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a very, very powerful point that you made in terms of the audio. Reason being is that when you start listening to variations of pitches, of basses, all these types of sounds, and I agree with you, Nisi, even though they're artificial, when you start listening to those pitches, these different vibrations, okay, that we're listening to have an effect on us. A lower vibration could actually almost hypnotize us into having certain behaviorisms, having certain thought processes. For example, all this thump, 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 big, deep bass stuff, I think that in itself can make an individual become or feel empowered or aggressive. So it's a very serious a mind control thing, and I read a couple of articles about it, and I want to research it a little bit more, but you're absolutely right. Those sounds, those tones, those pitches, those things that we hear and we listen to on a daily basis, voluntarily, mind you, right? Music pretty much is voluntary. those things have a way of manipulating certain things in our brain waves based on the pitch. So we have to be very careful about that.
We have an email. We have an email from Miss New York City, and Miss New York City says, the elite have a gender confusion agenda now. They use us to introduce all the worst concepts. We are hungry for fame, money, etc., and will do anything asked of them. We need to talk about our lack of integrity and morals and our affinity toward all that is bad, gross, and irrelevant.
Wow.
And I think that's a something that we really never even talk about, because a lot of these images, is like I say, these kids are getting it because the parents want them to have it, because the kid's not paying the cable bill. And so some of the things that we're letting into our subconscious, into our kids' mind, that's on us. And I think we have to have tighter controls on, like the sister said. Where's our integrity?
Right.
It's like we can do whatever we want to do. We have no integrity or morals.
Brother, I work at a school, and it's so odd because it's like the kids, I work at a continuation school, so these kids already either beat up the teacher or do a desk or something and just act it out. These kids got cell phones and nice $300 shoes and making fun of the car I come to school in, bragging about what their mama got. And it's like the parents, most of them, they had their arms behind their back because their hands tied behind their back, I should say, because it's like the laws were taken from them. They can't even, I ain't saying beat your kid or nothing like that, but we all know, you used to fear your parents, man. And you don't necessarily need to be physical to put fear in your kids, but nowadays, these kids could just call 911 and you got an investigation on you, whatever, man. But that still don't mean you should reward them. So it's just all screwed up. And most of these kids being raised by maybe one parent and she has gender issues or he does and the other parent is in jail. It's the whole idea of family, the concept is ruined.
But that's the new norm.
You say that's the new norm, Nisi? Is that what we're being taken to, or that's where we're being allowed ourselves to be taken, or what? Because
that's what we. I agree with the second point. We've allowed ourselves to be taken to that point. Why would you, in your good common sense judgment of parental judgment, why would you reward bad behavior? Somewhere along the line, the children are running the asylum.
Right.
So, you don't have any control of them. They don't have any healthy respect for you. And we have males who have no male figure to emulate and model after. So some of them are two things that happen to a lot of our boys. Not just the only two things, but two major things. They're either going from one bad spectrum to the other. They're either going completely to their feminine side, or they're going to the aggressive side where they damn hate women, but they're not gay. But they could be down low, but, they're going to those spectrums. There's no healthy middle.
I have a question.
They're so emotional now, too. My God. They don't know how to talk, so that just goes to fighting and acting out, and you know where that leads.
Lone Wolf, is there, with the children that you're around, and you're at the continuation school, I would assume that most of those mothers are single mothers?
Yeah, man. Yeah, but
but check this out. This is the question I have.
Okay.
It seems like if they laughing at the car you drive in and you the teacher and they got all the $300 suits and all of this, it seems like things are going well.
Right.
Without the dad in the house.
Right.
What is that? And if this kid is so if he has it going like that, because it sounds like he's living large. Right.
It's all materialistic stuff. You go to the house, it's probably dirty and roaches and all that, but, it's just a facade. Like, a girl at a club, they all jazzed out or whatever. And I don't mean no disrespect to anybody, but, you go to their house, it's just filthy. It's a little apartment, she got on shoes that cost as much as her rent. You know what I mean, or a purse as much as her rent. You know, I was raised by a woman. You know, my mom. You know, but she put her foot down. You know, it's like. I thought I was too big for my britches. She put me out, you know, and man, 4 hours go by, you outside, man, it's late at night, you knocking on the door. Mama, I was just playing, I'm sorry, you know.
So
nowadays, it's like, it ain't like that, man.
So one of the things that I've noticed in the area that I grew up in, the area I live in now, that there's no children running up and down the street like when I was a kid, full of kids on every street.
Right. Where is that, Santa Monica? Where did you grow up again?
Los Angeles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was kids up and down the street all the time. Now, now you don't see that anymore. Is it?
Go out and play. Remember your mama said that. Go outside.
Right.
You know, get out of the house.
Right.
You know.
Right. Now Now no kids are outside. What is that?
Right.
And is that what we crave for with these images? Is that what we want so bad that we just rather sit in front of the house as children instead of going outside?
That's the social media and the video games. That's what that is.
What effect?
They ain't got to move. Everything right there.
What effect does that
They
have?
want us cut off from nature.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So you're in front. You're not getting no sun. You're not breathing no fresh air. You're not outside.
You big. You 13. You got diabetes. You build like a 47-year-old truck driver. You know what I'm saying? They build the cars bigger for the kids and got the TVs back there. It's like everything is catering to you getting bigger as opposed to make it smaller so you could feel uncomfortable and work out. You know what I mean?
Well, now we know the importance of nature. That's why we had a little call a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about tree climbing, and that's something that we take very lightly. Things that are out in nature that we can get into, but instead we just rather be inside all day. And I think it's just
that's weird.
And to me,
to climb a tree.
Yes. And I
you're
think
weird.
And to me, that's what the images do to us mostly. It's like the sister said, it cuts us off from nature.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have no thoughts coming through. We don't produce our own thoughts. Everything we get off is what somebody else says or does. In everything we do, we don't figure out things ourselves. We wait for somebody else to tell us. We don't even it hurts. I've heard people say it hurts to think. I'm like, what are you talking about? because and that's because they all their whole life. That's all we do is what other people tell us to do, and that's what the African American is. Yeah. And until we can until we can define ourselves as who we are and what we are to this planet and what we're going to do while we're here, if you have somebody else telling you that, you're going to be what they say you are. It's just that simple.
Right.
And those images perpetuate that.
So But remember that movie now? A good movie, if somebody want to redo something, is that movie Drop Squad. You remember that?
Oh, yeah. Right.
Now that would be, explain that, break that down to the audience.
Drop Squad. Go check this out. You probably can check it out on YouTube free. So Spike Lee produced it.
Now that's a Spike Lee joint?
Yeah. Oh, he didn't direct it. He produced it.
Right.
And it's a
Thank
movie,
God for Spike Lee.
Yeah. It's a cold movie about this group of brothers that if you in trouble with somebody in your family's cooning, acting up, they would have these brothers come kidnap them and, deprogram them. So let's say if
pull up in a van, right?
And kidnap them and take them to a place and deprogram them. And the drop means deprogram and restoration of pride. Excellent movie, nice storyline. Wow. And so that's you're right, Lone Wolf. That's a cold flick that I would recommend. Another one is
somebody should do that instead of what's happening in the movie or some crap,
Right. Or another one they can redo is Spook Who Sat by the Door. My all-time
favorite. Wow! Hey, that's Chicago right there, baby.
So the images that we see, I think they should just be produced by us, even if they're drawings or even the memes that you can do online, even the words that you speak. It can be something that could, drive another person to think a different way. So what do you say, Rick?
Can I say something
Hey,
really quick?
do it. You know, that's what we need to be doing. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, no problem, because I know we were talking, too, about, like you guys said, the images that Hollywood produced. And see, the funny thing is, like, foreigners, they know who we are. And they'll subliminally put it in certain images that they produce in movies. Like, if anybody ever seen the movie Lucy, you know, it was about that white girl, you know, and she had they found some type of it was about the way she thought, her brain, and they found it was some type of chemical in her. And you know, if she reached 100% of her brain, then she had the power to activate like everything within her. You know, and when you look at that movie, really it should have been an indigenous sister that was playing the primary role. But that movie, in the movie, they was actually talking about us as indigenous sisters and even as indigenous brothers. So like I said, the foreigners know who you are, but they'll just put it in a form of a European. You know, because they won't never tell you that this is who we're really talking about. You guys, this is the power that you guys have as indigenous brothers and sisters.
Well, ma'am, don't you think it's kind of funny that you never see those stories written by so-called African Americans? Now, I understand that The Matrix was written by a sister.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Yeah, The Matrix.
Wow.
Yeah,
see, that's a deep movie.
Yeah, The Matrix.
And got gypped.
Yeah, The Matrix and the Terminator was written by the same sister. So is that one of the reasons why we don't see more produced, written, directed stuff coming out of Hollywood? Is because of what happened to that sister? The afraid that will happen to them also.
You know what? I'm not sure, but it could be. See, I didn't even know that The Matrix was written by a sister, and that was like really one of my favorite movies. Like, she really did an excellent job with that. So could be, possibly.
Yes, because I just find
you don't hear about that, but you hear about Chris Brown and Rihanna. But that's one of the greatest tragedies ever. The Matrix. This lady got gypped.
Right.
But you hear about some crap all day long.
Right.
Right.
So those stories, The Matrix, and I just find it hard to believe that brothers and sisters are not putting, especially as high-priced and as black folks are balling in Hollywood, how come no nice movies are being put out? And the sad part about this is I was talking to a sister a few weeks ago, and she was talking about the filmmaker Oscar Micheaux. And this brother was making movies in the early 30s and 40s with no money, making some nice films, and he doing it by himself. And I just find it hard to believe that in this day and time, you know, things like that would create a whole bunch of opportunities for the whole community. I just
even in the 90s and late 80s, they had F. Gary Gray and Matty Rich and all these little up-and-coming directors, and they just fizzled on out.
Right, because we're not trying to, and that's what I mean that these images do. They create a picture in our minds that we're not nothing. We're refugees. We can't do it. I mean, I talk to people all the time, man. It won't work. No, and I think the big part plays in that what we talked about earlier: morals and integrity. You know, we've been slipping in that so long. We don't even have the integrity to stand up and do what's right.
Yeah. We got a long way to go in Hollywood, and it was wild as TV. They kind of go in on a limb and hire black actors more. You know, as far as the Hollywood movies are concerned, film is a more like a limited national investment. They want their money up front. They scared to gamble on a script of color. You know.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. There's not movie theaters that. I mean, we're in a new day. We can't do movie theaters where we can have all the amenities that everybody else have, but there are movie theaters where we do and we produce movies. I mean, it seems like these conversations aren't even being had by the people who are in these genres. Because I'm looking at some of the
closest we got is Magic Johnson, but you know he shows everybody stuff. Huh? Say that again.
No, I was going to say, oh, but you guys have the Magic Johnson theaters.
Right.
No.
But nobody would have thought somebody who did that more, the Chuck D theaters, or you know what I mean? Prince theaters. That's one thing I always liked about Prince. Produced, composed, and arranged by Prince. He don't need nobody.
So, but why does he?
One man shop.
Yeah. Well, the images that are put forth. I mean, it's not up to the people that puts forth the images or the people that they give us, that they work through the images through. But I think it's up to all of us, man. We got to put out those images, and I think we got to be those images ourselves.
Right.
We got to be it, because if you can see what's happening, it doesn't look too good for us on the home front. Like you said, morals and integrity. It's like we ain't trying to have it.
Right.
So I think my solution is, you got to be that you want to see. What's that? Be the change you want to see, and that's what you got to be. And one more thing, I'd cut off the TVs.
Yeah, I don't even have one anymore.
Yeah. So, but anyway, in closing, Rick, the images that you see, what do you think can be done about it, and how do they affect you?
And they don't affect me at all because I don't pay them no attention. But anyway, I think one thing that we could start doing, like you were saying earlier, about making movies, we need to start making a couple of movies about us in our attire, the attire that we're supposed to be wearing. Because I think that would bring back a lot of memories to some of the older folks, and maybe it'll rub off on some of the younger folks. But I think we need to start making movies like that where we're in our own dress and in our own habitat.
So get rid of the baseball caps and the football jerseys.
Yeah, we can get rid of them for a minute.
Okay, Nisi, images. How do they affect you, if any, if they do at all?
They don't affect me. What they do is allow me to see what is affecting the younger generation, and I try to counsel them on these images, because a lot of this stuff is subliminal, and some of it is just overt, but more of it is subliminal, and it's a repetition. And like the caller was saying, once it gets into your psyche in that repetition, this stuff is sparking aggression and things that are just allowing our youth to continue to devalue themselves. So if you don't value yourself, then you're a non-factor in the rest of society.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Nisi.
Mm-hmm.
Lone Wolf.
Yes, sir.
You're out there under the sun, the lights, camera, action. How does that affect living in a city like that? How does that affect you in a city, knowing that everything that's shown on the whole world screen comes out of there? How does that affect you in the city that you live in? What did it do, if anything, to the people out there?
To me, it doesn't do anything, because you have to be in it to know about it. Otherwise, man, like I worked on sets before, they had a catering truck and feed people, and they just gorge out on food. And, 5 steps away, you got somebody homeless in the bushes, don't even have money. And they can't even give the food to the homeless person because, they say they could get sued and for insurance purposes and stuff like that. So it's just all a facade, man. Like you're walking through the desert and you think you see palm trees and some little lake of blue waters, but it ain't really there. It's just a facade,
Wow. Well, thank
you. And I was gonna end it with far some live music and hearing some music nowadays. Like an artist, D'Angelo has a new album and it's all live instrumentation. It's called The Black Messiah. I think y'all should check that out. It's jamming.
Okay. Well, images. Like I said earlier, the images that we're going to have to be putting forth, we're going to have to be that image ourselves. So whatever we need on the planet at the time, it's going to be up to us to be that image, and do what needs to be done, because everybody can see what they're trying to do, especially to the so-called African-American male, black male, trying to make it seem like you have no purpose, no reason to be on this planet. and that's what they're perpetrating to the masses. So think about that the next time you go out. I'd like to thank all the callers who called in today and shared their thoughts and ideas with us. Please join us again next time. Thursday night, we're going to be back with another edition of African Americans Ain't African. And another thing about African Americans Ain't African, start checking your history of your family. Start doing a history check of yourself. Nobody in this world history is more important than yours. Start with yourself and do a history lesson on yourself. And I think you may be surprised at the results that you get. Until Thursday night, we're going to leave you with some Ohio players. And Rick, what you know about this?